Hi guys, it's Jacob from Stringbuzz here, stringbuzzworld.org being the music journalism site, links are in the description down below. And we have a brand new song review for you today, and it's the latest track by Royal Blood, and that's Lights Out. So I'm going to refer to the original article as I usually do for these videos, so I hope you enjoy. So I'm actually a fairly big fan of Royal Blood, and their debut breakout record was one of the most refreshing periods in music of my lifetime actually, and it was great to experience this incoming of instrumental music leaking its way back into the charts once again after such a stale period. I love the way they introduced a new style of group music using pedals to create a really muddy and dirty bass sound in collaboration with unusual time signatures played on the percussion. It's like stoner rock but slightly more commercial, and not quite as progressive I guess, and not quite as heavy because obviously you don't have the guitars and the many layers, but it's interesting for me, it's very innovative. So shall we see what I thought of this brand new outing? Well, I actually thought it was more of the same really. It didn't really wow me or blow me away or anything like that, but it certainly was a fun listen, and it's one of the better rock tracks we've had thus far this year, which I know isn't really saying much because this year has been a really bad year for rock so far, but they are definitely up there. I think the vocals are clearly more polished this time around in comparison to their last album, and it's obvious for me to see that Mike has been working on his vocal range, and it was proven really well here. The percussion is also solid in this track, and despite me finding the repeated fills a little unimaginative, yeah, I think they could have done more than just doing the same sort of routine when it comes to fills. Maybe some more cymbal work perhaps? Would that be too much to ask? But I did like the jerky and progressive sort of feel of the percussion during this track, and I think the atmosphere created because of it was really fun, as I've already mentioned. It's a difficult one to really comment on because I enjoyed listening to this track and I appreciate everything that was done here, but it didn't really possess that memorable quality about it that would usually get my blood pumping. Production-wise, the track is just as solid as we typically expect from the duo. They've always had good production value. It's largely organic, but with this very distorted, rough bass tone and bolstered percussion, what we're used to hearing, but I really enjoy it anyway. The kick is deep and wholesome, carrying that low end really well. The cymbals glisten in the high ground exactly where you want them to be, and the snare is also quite impactful too. I would have had it be even more impactful, but then you don't want to take away from that depth of the kick, so I can understand the choices made there. The vocals have been left relatively untampered with, and I liked how raw and passionate they sounded as well. I liked how the grit was kept within them. That usually doesn't happen in the rock genre at the moment, in case you didn't already know. The backing vocals / harmonies that were supplied were also really mixed well. I usually don't like that sort of thing, but they've done it well here again, giving the track an almost 70s prog rock vibe to it. I hate using the word vibe, but it kind of works here. It's difficult to make backing vocal harmonies, as I've already mentioned, stand out without coming across as just like generic pads in the background, but they managed it here. I enjoyed it. So it's a top-notch production cycle for me. When it comes to the musicality of this track, there are a lot of things I can appreciate here and that I did enjoy here. The bridge was a standout for me, with a really decent riff being knocked away whilst the drums created this frenetic and wild atmosphere, and I know I keep using the word atmosphere, that's because they actually utilized atmosphere really well here. As I've already said, the vocal performance is strong, and it's really nice to hear an improvement from the group so quickly after their debut effort. I mean, usually it takes a couple of albums, a couple of outings really to get to that point where you're maturing to this point, but they're growing quickly, and I find that very admirable to progress that quickly so shortly after your debut breakthrough effort. However, the verse strumming, and yes, I do know it's just a bass and that he's trying to play the bass while sing at the same time, so it'd be difficult to play live, but I did find that was a little dry, and I kind of switched off during the verses. I found them very dull. The vocal melodies are also a little bit bland for me, and despite them being performed well, as I've said about 15 times during this review, I just didn't find them that catchy or memorable. I don't think the notation was that good of the lyrics. The song just missed that driving element really for me, especially in that sort of mid to high ground. I think that's due to lack of vocal melody, as well as, you know, when you're only playing a bass, you don't really have those homophonic guitar melodies you can add in over the top. So I think that can really summarize this track, as I felt I was waiting to be blown away, but I never got to that point and was never blown away. Lyrically, the track is functional rather than being that great, but it's certainly not bad or anything like that. It's what you typically expect from this style of music, so I can't really complain. So all in all, the track is pretty good, and I think fans really will love it. I, on the other hand, sort of felt indifferent towards it, and I guess that might be my own fault, but I'm still going to give it a G rating of 6.5 out of 10 just because it didn't appeal to my certain demographic all too much. Doesn't mean it's not a great track, so I gave it an above average score. So if you like this video, then please leave a like, subscribe to see more, and I'll see you around next time. Bye bye.